On Monday, Benjamin Netanyahu agreed to send a team of Israeli officials to Washington to discuss with the Biden administration officials a prospective Rafah operation.
Right, Shivan, all this while the White House has been extremely skeptical of Netanyahu's plan to carry out an operation in Rafah, where about 1.5 million displaced Palestinians are sheltering as of now.
The position is that Hamas should not be allowed a safe haven in Rafah or anywhere else. But a major ground operation there would be a mistake. It would lead to more innocent civilian deaths, worsen the already dire humanitarian crisis, deepen the anarchy in Gaza, and further isolate Israel internationally.
The agreement to hold talks about Rafah came as Biden and Netanyahu spoke on Monday, the first interaction in more than a month. Well, divide has grown between allies over the food crisis in Gaza and Israel's conduct during the war. White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan stated that Biden questioned the Israeli leader over a lack of a coherent and sustainable strategy to defeat Hamas in the ongoing war.
A military plan cannot succeed without an integrated humanitarian plan and political plan. And the president has repeatedly made the point that continuing military operations need to be connected to a clear strategic endgame.
Republicans and Israelis were quick to express outrage after Chuck Schumer sharply criticized Netanyahu's handling of the war and called for Israel to hold new elections. They accused the Senate Majority Leader of breaking the unwritten rule against interfering in a close ally's electoral politics. Biden hasn't endorsed Schumer's call for election, but said he thought he gave a good speech that reflected the concerns of many Americans. Sullivan said Netanyahu raised concerns about the calls by Schumer for new elections.
Biden administration officials have warned they would not support an operation in Rafah without the Israelis putting forth a credible plan to ensure the safety of the civilians. And according to White House officials, Israel has not yet put forth such a plan. In the US, voters on the left are dissatisfied with Biden's unwavering support for Israel, as its military operations in Gaza have left more than 31,000 Palestinians dead.
Mr. President, have you seen the interagency report?
All right, for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani tells us more on the areas of tensions between President Biden and Prime Minister Netanyahu. Listen in.
The Biden-Netanyahu relationship has devolved over the past several months as tensions have emerged for allowing more humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip and steps to protect civilian casualties and the future of an eventual Palestinian state. Regarding Rafah, concerns fall within three areas on the part of the White House. The civilians sheltering in Rafah have nowhere to go. Rafah is an entry point for critical humanitarian assistance. And then neighboring Egypt has voiced concern about a potential military operation there as well. Israel will now send a delegation to Washington to talk about the prospective Rafah operations. Still, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan on Monday wanted to make clear that the U.S. position is that Hamas should not be allowed a safe haven in Rafah or anywhere else, adding that President Biden and Prime Minister Netanyahu share the common objective that Israel must prevail over Hamas.
Well, Susan further explains how a potential Rafah offensive may loom over Biden's campaign. Take a listen.
Muslim community leaders in Illinois are urging voters to protest President Biden while writing Gaza on primary ballots on Tuesday. Now, this push comes after similar efforts in states like Michigan and Minnesota. Those efforts shook President Biden's re-election campaign, with more than 150,000 voters choosing uncommitted over the president in those states' primaries. So, yes, the issue of Biden's support for Israel and how he's dealing with the war in Gaza continues to plague the campaign.